There was an election in Flatbush a few years ago for a judge, which we lost by 76 votes. A from woman was running and she lost by 76
We had the same thing with the DA over here for about 50 votes.
Right, the DA, which means any shul in Queens for the DA, any shul, had they come out,
made the difference.
Would have made the difference. In Flatbush, any shul could have made the difference. People are not registered. It's very simple. And you need to register. If you're in New York City, you need to be registered as a Democrat. That includes Queens, part of New York City. You need to be a registered Democrat. Rare occasions that being registered as a Republican makes a difference. The primary is what's critical. Mandani won the primary. Now that he won the primary, chances are he will be our mayor.
Beruchim Abayim, and welcome to Torah Talks Chazaq's program with special guests. We have with us all the way from Brooklyn, Leon Goldenberg. Baruch Haba, welcome. So good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
First time ever in Queens.
Oh, really? No. First time in Queens. Okay. I know it's your first time at the Chazaq headquarters.
Yeah,
which, Baruch Hashem, it's funny. He walks in, he's like, oh, I didn't realize Chazaq is so big.
I have a daughter-in-law from Queens.
Oh, very nice. Baruch Hashem. Yes. Chazdei Hashem. So we're going to be speaking about a topic which people might say, what's the connection to Torah and talks and Chazaq? But it's politics 101, and you'll see the connection momentarily. But before we get to the topic, a little bit background about yourself and the great work you're involved with.
So I guess the things that I am involved in most are Shalom Torah Centers, which I run now for the last 16 years, which is a kiruv school in Manalapan. We have Kanai Hara 200 children. 100 of our children were in public school. Came out of public school.
Chazaq music terriers.
Yes, they came out of public school. Most of our kids, I would say 85 to 90% of our graduates go on to Yeshiva High School. By the time they graduate from Yeshiva High School, they're 100% Shomer Shabbat.
Hashem, amazing. Hashem.
So that keeps me busy part of the day. I am involved in the Aguda for almost 40 years, and that'll just give you an idea of why I got involved in politics. 40 years ago, I had the ability to buy a piece of land to build Tomchei Shabbos, the first Tomchei Shabbos that existed in Borough Park and Flatbush. And in 1986, we had a groundbreaking event, which was attended by leading rabbis, rabbanim, and a few politicians. And it was really a beautiful event. It was on 44th and Utrecht on the lot. I had arranged for a contractor to work basically at cost. Architect, everybody building was going to be put up a simple building, just a warehouse building is going to be put up cheap. A week after we had this beautiful groundbreaking, we get a letter from the MTA, Mass Transit Authority, saying they're taking our lot on eminent domain. Now, in reality, they were right. They were building power stations. People don't realize, but the trains run on DC and we generate electricity on AC, or just the opposite. You don't know. Yeah. So they have to convert the power. And they figured out if they build these conversion power plants every 20 blocks, they can speed up the train. So the reasoning was correct. And you want to take an empty lot instead of taking down 2 or 3 buildings that have residents living in and stores. But it didn't work for me. Values had skyrocketed since I had bought it, and it's a whole process to fight, and it could take years and years before we get any money, and by that time the prices will have skyrocketed. And I said to Mr. Hershkowitz, who's the founder of Tomchei Shabbos, who do we talk to? And he said a very strange lashon, a very strange language. He said, let's go to our Aguda. Not let's go to the Aguda, let's go to our Aguda. And that was my first dealing with the Aguda. And I called up, I'll tell you his name in a second when I remember it. I called him up. He was the counsel for the Aguda at that point, Mordei Avigdor. And I said, I'd like to come down and see you, expecting him to say, well, maybe in 2-3 weeks I can fit you in for 10 minutes. And he says, what time is it now? I said, 12 o'clock. He says, can you be in my office 2 o'clock? I said, 2 o'clock when? He says, you said it's important. Now, in 2 hours. So I picked up Mr. Hershkowitz, and we went to the Aguda. And said at the end of the day, this is really something that we need to involve the politicians to stop the MTA. And just to give you one idea of what took place, when they want to take property, and I'll try to move it along quickly because that's not the purposes. When they want to take property, they have to advertise it 3 times in the paper that they're having a hearing about taking the by eminent domain. They advertise it 3 days, 3 times on Shabbos in the New York Times. An Orthodox organization in Borough Park, not advertised in any Jewish newspaper, only in the New York Times. And luckily on the last ad, somebody saw it. Called me up, you know that there's a hearing next Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was. And I was flabbergasted. And Dov Heiken came down with me, and he just got up and he just blasted them for the way they did it. And they canceled the meeting. And that week I got a call from the MTA. They'd like to sit down and talk. And it was a year process. It was a long process. But at the end of the process, I gave them the lot. They gave me a building on 63rd and Utrecht, which today houses Tomchei Shabbos and Borough Park and Flatbush.
Look at that. Unbelievable.
So Tomchei Shabbos is something I've been involved with, as you can see, for quite some time. The Aguda, right, where I am involved in the political end of the Aguda, whether it's New York City, New York State, or Washington. As a matter of fact, tomorrow we'll be going. By the time people hear it, we were already in Washington. And then Kojo Flatbush, where I sit on the executive board. Those
Amazing.
Are,
so you keep yourselves very busy.
Those are 3 of the main.
Amazing. So we're going to be focusing on today's Torah talk, like we said, politics 101. So tell us, why is it so important to be politically active? Why do people have to wait for them to have an issue with some MTA or some building?
Well, that's also important, but I'll tell you another one. I won't disclose names, okay? But I got very close to an assembly person, not in New York City. There was a council member who was really a great friend of the Jewish community, a Jewish person, but not religious, but really a great friend, Lou Fiddler. And he was introducing me to legislators all over the state that he had connections to. And he introduced me to a certain assembly person, and really it was a very nice meeting. And I actually went out as couples for dinner with that assembly person. And that assembly person was very prolific, was putting forward legislation, and it passed, about the age of consent for marriage in New York. Did you know that up until about 8 years ago, or whatever it was, 7 years ago, a girl of 12 could get married? Even in the Sephardic community, it's a little younger. And there were cases where girls were being forced into marriage at 12, 13, 14 years old. And the person wanted to pass legislation to raise the age to 18. But because of my relationship, I got a call. What does the Orthodox community need? I called Chaim David. We reached out to some Rabbanim in the Sephardic community where there are younger marriages, and there were some that requested 16, but we felt that wouldn't fly. And instead, we decided that 17 is what we would ask for, and I did, and the legislation passed with 17.
Wow,
so something that nobody knows about, nobody's involved in. And so the impact is sometimes, we talk about, I'm up there for yeshivas for, mandated services and, where we get millions and millions of dollars for the yeshivas. But there's sometimes little things that happen
that have a very big effect.
That have an impact. I won't say a very big effect. I won't say
that case maybe not, but in general, there's a lot of things that have an effect, whether it's the yeshivot or their shuls or the organizations. It could go on and on.
I've written to several members, important members of Congress recently, and I'm not going to give names, about Mandani. Okay, I'm actually writing 2 more today. And about globalizing the Intifada. Now, you want to tell me you're for a state of Palestine? I can hear that. The fact that you had a state of Palestine from 2005 to 2023, and you simply ignore that, and the fact that you could have had a state in the larger part of Palestine in 2000 and 2008, and you choose to ignore that, is, an argument. But globalizing the Intifada means kill Jews all over. That means the 2 Jews that were murdered in D.C., the one that was murdered in Boulder, and the other ones that were burnt alive was because of globalized Intifada. One of the people that I've reached out to, that Mandani is seeking an endorsement from, hasn't received it yet. And that person has said publicly, that doesn't mean that that's where it'll end, because these are all Democrats, that they will not endorse until that is cleared up. Okay, now will they, won't they? I can't tell you, but the point is that the people that I've written to, quietly, no fanfare, not tweeted out, quiet email sent, and most of what happens, most of the good things that happen in government are quietly, and not by banging down the doors and letting the whole world know that I'm against this and I'm against that. The Aguda was probably the most instrumental organization in passing the legislation on the federal level now. Most of that work was done quietly. $5 billion. There's really no cap on it. There's really no cap on it. There's only a cap on how much we can give, which hopefully in future years we can raise, because that's how most of these programs run. You start here and you grab a little more, grab a little. I don't like to use that. Cut that out.
So personal experience of elected officials having an effect on our community. You've mentioned a few already.
Yes.
That's one. And
there's 2 that I mentioned.
Right,
One,
right, exactly. And what do the Gedolim, the big rabbis of our generation, what do they say about being politically active and voting?
It's critical. It's always been critical to our community.
Even more so now.
Even more so now when you have Mandani and you have somebody like that running. And we have so many people in our community that are not registered. And we have so many people in our community that decided to be registered as Republicans or independents, which is wonderful if you're living in Florida. And when I domicile myself in Florida, I will become a Republican. But right now I'm in New York. And just to give you one idea, on the legislative side, there are 150 members in the Assembly. 49 keeps going back and forth, 49, 50 are Republicans, and 100 are Democrats. So they have not only a majority, but the supermajority. Might be under, hopefully, with an election, might be down to 99. You can imagine we'll be happy with 99 because it's no longer a supermajority. In the Senate, they lost the supermajority, and we're thrilled. Wow, wow. 50 Republicans decide they want to pass legislation, and they get 50 Democrats to agree to pass the same legislation.
That's 100.
That's 100 out of 150.
Majority.
Does it pass the Assembly?
Should.
It should.
100, right? 100.
Let's count that again. 100 versus 50,
Yeah.
right?
So 100 wins.
It doesn't.
Doesn't.
Why doesn't it?
Why doesn't it?
Because the Speaker will not allow a piece of legislation to come to the floor for a vote that does not have 76 Democrats supporting it.
Oh, wow.
So basically, the Republicans in the Assembly and in the Senate, very nice people.
This is New York, obviously.
This is New York. We're talking about New York. You're listening somewhere else, it's different rules.
Yeah.
You go to Florida, it's different rules. But for New York, basically what they can pass in legislation are 3 things. I've been thinking about changing our office on East 14th Street between M and N, and I wanted that street to be changed and named to Leon Goldenberg Way. They can probably accomplish that for me. They can also accomplish if somebody has, sometimes you have a cop or a fireman that gets disabled at 18 years and they want them to get to 20 years because they get a better pension. They can pass legislation to bypass the pension system for that individual cop or fireman or whoever it is that they're trying to pass. That they can pass. I look, people don't know how many pieces of legislation are passed in Albany every year. Believe it or not, almost 1,000 pieces of legislation are passed every year. And the governor will sign 30, 40, 50 at a time. And sometimes I will look at what was signed and who is leading the legislation.
Sponsor the bill, it's
to
called.
sponsor the bill. And basically, you'll find that the Republican sponsors are sponsoring bills like this. They are not sponsoring any legislation. They can co-sign, they can vote on it if they like the legislation, but they cannot be the main sponsor. They cannot be the lead sponsor, except on street namings and, minor bills, a little tax bill for their locality upstate where it might make a difference. Other than that, they can't pass legislation. So our community needs to be involved with the Democrats. Now, the Democrats are terrible. The Democrats have Mandani. You want to make a difference? Then we have to put people in that can fight them on the Democratic side, not when they're sitting up in Albany and they're basically ignored, and they're completely ignored. I can tell you about my own business, something. I had a meeting with a very important Republican, and I called, and he says he's never had a meeting with the real estate group. And I said, I'll take care of that immediately. I get out, and I call the person, and the person says, I can't meet with him. I said, why can't you meet with him? I can't be seen by the Democrats meeting with him. So it's very nice that 5 towns sent a Republican senator and a Republican assembly member to this state, and they can scream about anti-Semitism from today till tomorrow, but that's all they can do. They cannot pass legislation. We need people that can pass legislation that will help the yeshivas, that will help the community with security, with funding for the yeshivas. That's what we need. And so therefore we need Democrats in office. Democrats that are moderate, Democrats that care about crime, and not just pass bail reform. Bail reform was important and was critical, and I will say that, but it was overboard.
Right.
When there's a young man who landed up spending 3 years in jail for stealing a backpack because he couldn't come up with $500 bail, Bowder. That's what caused bail reform. It's not about looking at the numbers. It's about individual cases that make the scene. He was 3 years in jail. Every time he couldn't come up with $500. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if somebody called you up at 1 o'clock on a Friday and said, I just got arrested, they want $1 million bail. Would you get him out before Shabbos? Would you? You would. Right? You would get him out before Shabbos. And $500 bail he couldn't come up with. And every time he came to go to court, there was this mess up, that mess up. He landed up sitting in Rikers for 3 years. After 3 years, he came out and he committed suicide from 16 to 19. So all this legislation is passed about. But if you want to make a difference, if you want to change those laws for the better and to make sense and discovery and everything else, you need to have Democrats working on it. You're not going to accomplish it by having Republicans that are screaming about it. Rightfully so. And what they're saying is true, but they can't pass the legislation.
Locally over here in Queens, where I am, my councilman is Councilman Jim Gennaro, and my assemblyman is Sam Berger, and they're moderate.
Right. They're moderate.
Yeah.
Go out to Far Rockaway, and you have Republicans.
Again, the Gedolei Yisrael, you have relationships with a lot of big rabbanim.
Yes.
What's there to say about the political act?
We need to be involved. We need to be active. Over the years, I used to go down to Reb Shmuel and ask him many questions that were very, very difficult questions of what we can support, what we can't support, who we can support because of certain things that they've done.
Right.
Okay, those conversations go on a regular basis. In Flatbush, Rebellia and Reb Yisrael Reisman are the ones that are the go-to rabbanim on this. And they understand these issues.
Yeah.
And they understand that things that seem, but this guy, you know what he did? You know what he voted for? I know what he voted for. But he can help us. And it's important to maintain those relations.
So it should be known that a lot of things that the community leaders do, everything is dat Torah. They follow the rabbanim, the gedolim. Very, very, very important that people know that. It's not just that, they decide it. Amazing, Leon. I really appreciate your time. We have a custom, a minhag of a final message for our broad audience.
The final message, register.
Everybody should be registered.
There was an election in Flatbush a few years ago for a judge, which we lost by 76 votes. A from woman was running, and she lost by 76 votes.
We have the same thing with the DA over here for about 50 votes.
Right, the DA, which means any shul in Queens, for the DA. Any shul, had they come out,
Made the difference.
would have made the difference. In Flatbush, any shul could have made the difference. People are not registered. It's very simple. I'm going to go to jury duty. You're going to go to jury duty anyway. You have a driver's license, they'll take you for jury duty. And at the end of the day, it's important that we go to jury duty so that we make a difference there too. But you're not going to get called for jury duty because you got registered, which is the biggest, once upon a time it was true. Today it's no longer true. You need to register, and you need to register. If you're in New York City, you need to be registered as a Democrat. If you're living upstate, if you're living in Muncie, if you're living in the in the country, if you're living in the 5 towns, it may be different. But if you're living in New York City, that includes Queens, part of New York City, you need to be a registered Democrat, because the congressional races, except for very rare occasions, which was the when Anthony Weiner was disbarred, whatever, thrown out. Rare occasions that being registered as a Republican makes a difference. For those that are registered as Republicans, when was the last time that your vote counted in the primary? Because that's all that matters.
People have to understand something. In general, you could vote for anyone.
In November, you vote however you want.
Yeah.
We're talking about the primary.
Yeah. The primary.
Last primary that made a difference as a Republican, 2016, when Trump ran for office. And before that, 26 years earlier, 22 years earlier, 26 years early, in 1990, when Bush ran.
It's been a long
That's
time.
when it makes a difference in New York City being a Republican. And I guarantee you, if you ask any of your Republican friends, I didn't vote in the primary for President Trump. I didn't think to go to the primary. What's so important? The primary is what's critical. And that's what people have to understand. Mandani won the primary. Now that he won the primary, chances are he will be our mayor. Especially if we have 3 people running against him, I guarantee you he's the next mayor.
Okay.
Vote. It makes a difference. Every
Registered
single vote counts.
Leon, thank you very much for coming. Joining us at Chazaq Torah Talks. Amazing feedback that we're constantly getting. Info to chazaq.org. Tuesday nights, 8:30 p.m. chazaq.org/live, chazaq.org/live. Special thank you to the various different platforms that host Chazaq Torah Talks. Special thank you to our friends at Torah Anytime and Daily Giving. $1 a day goes a very far way. We encourage everyone to be a daily giver. And we want to thank you once again, Leon, and all those that are involved with Chazaq, all the volunteers and staff and board members and supporters. Baruch Hashem, great things are happening. The summer is the busiest time for us. Baruch Hashem, we're trying to get as many kids from public schools into yeshivas for the September school year.
Okay,
Yeah,
send
Baruch
some
Hashem.
more to us.
Shalom, yes, for sure, 100%. We should only hear Besorot Tovot only goodness. Shkach. Amazing.